Gentlemen.
With all the paper, right?
Right. Welcome to the special public meeting of March 26, 2018 of the Township of Washington Township Council. Adequate notice of this meeting was given in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act by the Township Clerk to at least 2 newspapers on March 21, 2019, and this notice has been posted on the Township Bulletin Board and on the Township website. Please notify the municipal clerk for any disability requirements necessary for attendance at mayor and council meetings. The fire exits are located through the double doors on your right and through the door on your left. Please silence all cell phones. Could everybody please stand for a salute to the flag? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Amen. Roll call?
She knows this all by heart. Councilman Bruno? Councilman Casio?
Here.
Councilman Cumming?
Here.
Councilman Ullman?
Here.
Council President DeSena?
Here. Also in attendance, Mayor Peter Calamari, Administrator Robert Tovo, CFO Judy Curran, and Township Clerk Susan Witkowski. Gentlemen, can I have a motion to open the meeting up to the public?
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cumming?
Yes.
Councilman Ullman?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes. Seeing no one here, do I have a motion to close the meeting to public
So moved.
discussion?
Second.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cumming?
Yes.
Councilman Ullman?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes. Good evening, gentlemen. Mr. Tovo has handed us 2 handouts tonight, one being the revised budget printout, and the second being the request I made last night of him for the 2019, the road program funding from prior years and what's left in the accounts. There's approximately $407,000 we could use from past years. So, Mike, I know you had asked that we go back up, so we'd be almost at $1 million this year in paving.
Okay.
Does that satisfy leaving it the way it is in the budget for 2019 then, if we pull these numbers out from the prior budgets?
Yeah, so just a question. So this number in 13, source of funding, 1306 road program, 136K.
Judy, do you have that? Does Judy have a copy of this?
Mr.
Do we have an extra copy, Mr. Tovo? Yeah, he's got an extra copy.
Okay, I didn't know if we did that.
Oh, yeah, we didn't get him, sorry. I didn't
Okay.
get
You want the one with the hole, so it's easier?
him. No, I didn't.
There's 2 and 13, Mike.
Yes. So in 1306 road program, 136,000. So can you explain what that number means? So did we bond a certain amount? The actuals that came in were $136,000 less, and we've been carrying $136,000 in cash?
Can't tell if it's bonds or bands, but X amount was allocated, and that is the balance between the various accounts for roads. So that includes soft costs as well as construction costs.
So the money is in the account, right? We know that we've checked all the accounts.
I think the question is, did you look at what's left in the bond ordinance? Is that where you?
Well,
you went to
I
capital?
really, my question is,
Why was it spent?
why wasn't it spent? Why wasn't the ban retired if it wasn't spent? And, are we playing an arbitrage where we're borrowing at, pennies and, our interest income is, a certain amount? Because I can't imagine, it's 136K we've been carrying for 6 years.
But is this
that-
what's
is
left
that
in
what-
the ordinance? Is this what's left in the ordinance?
Is that a statement or a question, Mr. Woman? Because I don't know what they did in 2013.
Well, I'm assuming, so, is this what we view as the remaining balance in the ordinance?
That's what it appears to be, yes.
Okay, so the way I'm interpreting this statement is that we had, we bonded or banned, or we had an ordinance for X. We borrowed X, and we only spent Y. And the difference between X and Y is 136,000 that we've been carrying on our books in a cash position, I'm assuming.
That doesn't mean that. What that means is, say you had an ordinance and it was 800,000, and you borrowed against that ordinance, okay? You spent, whatever you spent, so you had 800,000, you might have spent, right, say the ordinance was, am I good enough now? Say the ordinance was 800,000, okay? What this means is that you charged 800 minus the 136 that's left over in the ordinance. It doesn't mean that's cash, that you actually have that and you could actually borrow against. Doesn't mean you have cash in there. That means you did not spend the whole ordinance, that's what that means.
But am I interpreting your understanding, Mike, that this is excess funds?
I thought it was excess.
No.
The way I'm reading it is funding.
If that's
so I-
the balance in the bond ordinance, that's what's left that you could actually spend on that ordinance. The whole ordinance wasn't spent, that's what.
Oh,
It wasn't spent, but was it borrowed? So
Is it
regardless of what the number
Is
is,
that money in the bank?
You would have to look at, no, it's not money in the bank. You would have to actually look at, like, say you have the bands. When you have, like, say we have 6 million in bands right
Sure.
now, okay? That consists of all those ordinances, and it tells you how much is borrowed against that ordinance. So you would have to look and see at ordinance 1306 and how much we have borrowed bands against that.
okay,
That's how you would determine that.
okay, so I don't,
I
until we-
agree with you, Mike. It's not what I thought this was money in an account
Now,
sitting.
is that, you looked at what was in the ordinance? I don't
From
know.
what I can tell, it looked like it was, but we need to
Okay,
have time to double
Yeah.
check that, because she had her thing today. Today I had mine,
Right.
so.
Okay. So I mean, Judy, the last thing I want to do is add to the bands. Right, Mike? That's what we want to avoid. So either we have this 407,000 sitting in the accounts like it's shown on this list. There's two things that should happen. Either we have this money in these accounts, right? Or these accounts should be closed and this money should be,
and I think the confusion is that when you have a bond ordinance, that's not cash sitting in that account.
all right, so that means we don't have.
Until you
no,
fund it.
Until you fund it.
Until you borrow against
Right,
it.
until you borrow.
But I don't
against
wanna
it,
borrow-
exactly,
I don't want-
right.
I'd rather-
This just means you didn't spend all of that ordinance.
Well,
That's what that means.
I'd rather put another extra money in 2019 rather than add to a ban from 2013, is I think the right thing to do, right?
Well, what's gonna happen is, when you go to renew your bands, okay, you do your financing, what's gonna happen is that you have to have your minimum pay down of those bands. So if you ever actually read the way the bond is actually structured, it'll say, okay, $6 million in bands to be renewed, okay, minus X, which is what we're paying down, and any new borrowing,
Okay.
okay? So you would have that 6 million, say you had to pay 50,000 down. That's a required payment.
Sure.
Okay? Then you're borrowing 6 million less than the 50,000.
Correct.
Okay? But now, if you were to borrow new money, that would be written in that bond, that you're borrowing X amount of dollars. So if you don't want to do that, you would not renew those bands for more. You would just pay that down. That's what you would do.
Well, the last thing I want to do is take 200, if you add the two 13s together, you're at roughly $200,000. So I don't want to use a 6-year-old ordinance to fund a new 2019 road program.
Right, so what you would have to cancel these out, then that's what you would do.
And I think that's what Bob's always asked,
Right.
is when we have stuff like these, this should all have been canceled out years
But you would
ago.
only get money back on that if that portion was funded. If it's not funded,
So right now, you're saying, at one case, we have 407 sitting in the bank. Another case, we might not have any, or we have something in between, depending on what was done each one of these years.
well, this is only considered so-called cash if it was funded. All
But-
these have to be
right, but that's what I'm
analyzed
saying. We
and
don't know
funded.
that sitting right here.
Right,
Okay.
exactly.
So I
Best
get-
case
So
is-
do you have time to?
I didn't want to say best or worst,
Yes.
depending on how you
Can
look
do an
at
email to
it.
verify?
Yeah.
Yeah, can you send an email to us tomorrow and let us know if it's worst case where it's not there, or it's best case that we have the 407,000 to add to this year's road program and bring it up to close to $1 million then? Okay. What do we have on the second sheet, Mr. Toro?
So what's the question on this, just so I catch up, whether this is funded or unfunded?
Right.
So it's either funded and unused,
Right.
or unused and not
Yeah, I mean,
funded?
if it's funded and we cancel, you'd have that cash available. We don't know if it's funded or not.
Well, this would be in the finance, I didn't bring it.
So that's what I said. It would
You have
be-
the audited
I don't
financials?
have it with me,
It-
but I'll check it tomorrow.
Yeah, there's a schedule right there, it tells you what's in.
All right, what's the second page, Mr. Toro?
That's the amended capital plan.
Okay.
Third page is a letter from our DMF super regarding the status of his vehicles and requesting that we fund the pickup truck this year. The long and short of it appears to be that truck will be needed this year if we want to maintain our ability to collect leaves and to plow roads.
So the first thing we have is the revised capital, right? So we removed all those small items, right? Let's see
Yes.
that.
And we did, yes.
Did we add Dr. Cassio's,
We did not.
gentleman, Dr. Cassio asked us last night about putting money in capital for, I guess, Dr. Cassio, would you like to take the lead on this, since you and
Yeah,
Mr. Cumming went?
well,
If you and Mr. Cumming
we
could
talked-
speak to the,
It's the same thing we talked about last night.
I know, but I just want, we didn't add it, so I want to
Yeah,
add it if we want, if we want to add it, we should add
They
it.
estimate about $250,000 to do the fiber optics in town and connect with Westwood Regional, Emerson, Hillsdale, and I forget who the other municipality was, Art, do you remember?
Riverville?
It might be Rivervale. Maybe not, I'm not sure. So,
Could be Hillsdale, too.
I'd like to get in on it because it's really a one-time shot. We can't wait until next year to do it because it'll be over and our savings will readily decrease.
So what does this do for us as a township?
It basically brings us more bandwidth and easier communications in the future. We can,
And in 5 years, it'll pay for itself.
well, I think they said 3 to 4, or didn't they?
3 to 4.
3 to 4 years it'll pay for itself.
Mr.
So-
Toba, you've done this before, you said?
Yeah, unfortunately, missed the boat on the joint opportunity to do it, did it after the fact, and paid at least double the amount we would have.
If you would have just did it
If you
already.
did it by yourself, it would double the cost, so.
You would.
And most towns are doing it, Mr. Togo?
That's the trend.
That's the trend. And
Plus, I believe there was an article in the NASDAQ News this week talking about the police chiefs utilizing all the cameras of all the facilities in the neighborhood of all their towns for protection.
Oh, wow.
Surveillance areas, in addition to additional camera work at the schools.
is that correct, Mr. Togo, in your
But that's
experience?
closed sessions.
Yeah, something we're looking at a few years out in capital would be a townwide camera system, and this would open up more opportunities to bring that in at a more affordable number.
For public areas.
I mean,
Safety.
I probably wouldn't ask for it this year since we have a lot on our plate, but this is really a one-time opportunity to get a good deal on it.
We could
Again-
get started with it somehow if there was a way.
What's that?
If there's a way, we should get started with it.
Well, again, it's something, I know it's last minute, and I do apologize for it, but it's,
Those came out of your shared services meeting.
came out of the shared service meeting, correct?
Right.
So, it's something that I think is a good time to jump on it before we have to spend double doing it ourselves.
So is it a town-owned resource? Is it,
We would own it. It's basically, we have our own AT&T fiber optic system in town.
and it is for the municipalities' use as well as the schools' use, or?
Municipality, school, and it could, and
No,
so
well, the school's building their own. They're, right, they're not,
we're networking in with them. It's all.
correct,
gonna be
but they're
one
paying
network.
their own share to
Yeah,
join the, yeah.
well, the more you get, the more
Correct.
people you get on it, the lower the
Yeah.
cost is, because they got to wire through Washington Township to get here, to
Correct.
get to the school, right? So if we're doing everything, they just bump on this way.
I know, but I just want to make it clear that they have their own program that they're paying for, and ours is separate
Yes,
of their
yeah,
program.
again,
It's just, we're getting the cost benefit of them doing it at this
Every
time.
entity gets a cost benefit from doing it together at one time. And as, from what I understand, other municipalities throughout the country, they actually start either giving the data shared servicing with their residents for nothing or a slight cost. So you become like a small Mobile.
Did they have a target date when they would be looking to start? Just curious.
Do you recall what
I
they said?
didn't hear that.
No, I didn't catch that.
But
Even
presumably
in the mem-
sometime this
I'll forward
year.
you the
Yeah,
memo,
sometime
but
this year.
I don't think the councilwoman
I don't think
mentioned
she had that, I don't think she had that data just yet.
But she gave us a very clear memo and I'd be happy to forward that to everyone.
I guess if you can get it to Sue, and then she'll disseminate it to the
Absolutely.
council and the administration.
And I'm just not clear of what we're looking to achieve. You know, what's the end game? Having a fiber optic network for the municipality where we can interoperate with the schools if we connect with them, you know, are we, you know, we're not supercomputing here. I guess I don't understand what is the upside of putting in that type of bandwidth unless we do something with it. You know, if we could monetize it, and if that's what the goal is, to monetize, you know, putting in this high capacity, you know, fiber optic network, you know, do we want to become, you know, a mini Ma Bell? So
My inclination is not to become a mini Ma Bell, but to network the town at a reasonable rate. Everything's going fiber optic anyway. So someone's going to have to
Well,
pick
Bob,
up.
in your past life, how did you use this system typically, if you don't mind?
Well, this was part of a different kind of arrangement. It was a school and town project where all the schools and borough facilities were all linked together by fiber. There was a carrier coming through town. We had an opportunity to join with them at that time. School did, township did not. So when we joined in about a year and a half later, our cost estimate went from less than 50 to over 100 to do the same run we would have
And
done.
what did you do with that system, just if you can, what did that system do?
It just
for you?
gave us complete interoperability with all school and borough properties and personnel.
So
I
we're
don't know
just
if they went
basically,
beyond that
we're
after
just
that.
putting a pipeline in to connect everything,
Correct.
a direct pipeline is what we're doing.
But I assume the carrier wants to go beyond that and offer it to residents along the routes. Am I correct? Which would make
From what I
sense.
understand.
May I read from Ms.
Yeah,
Bell's
yeah, if you could read,
memorandum?
This way we have more
She's-
information.
Ms. Bell?
She says, quote, "You seemed most interested in the fiber optic loop, that it will eliminate the need to pay Verizon the yearly fee and could potentially pay back the investment within 3 to 5 years. As discussed, this needs to be a contiguous town collaboration, so Emerson and Rivervale are other possible partners. Should you want to be more specific, please reach out to our borough administrator, Ben Kazmarski. I have included Ben in this email distribution, so you can reach out to him directly." And then she goes on to other options, and I've just forwarded a copy to Ms. Sue
Okay.
for distribution. And I was going to piggyback the energy management system on top of that, which is a paltry $22,000, to make sure that the air conditioning and furnaces gets turned on at the right time and turned off, so that even though the most efficient lighting and energy stuff that we have now, compressors and condensers, don't run all night for no purpose.
You're funding 5% of $250,000. It's a very low budget, and if you decide not to do it, you decide not to do it. It's not, you know, a huge chunk. It's investing in the future. Everything's going fiber optic. I don't think there's going to be anything above that in the near future.
But right now, we have nobody else partnering with us.
We have the school partnering with us and Westwood partnering.
Westwood, well, Emerson's on.
Emerson, Westwood.
Westwood.
And they get charged money, or they don't
Hillsdale.
get charged money?
I'm sorry?
Do they get charged anything for it, or we just foot the bill of 200, or what?
No, we're all sharing the cost.
So what's the total cost?
Well, it depends on the size of the town. I don't have that.
Our cost is $250.
But I mean, what's,
Or
you
less.
know, yeah, so what's the, I mean, what is it? Who's paying what? What's the total? How much is our share? What's the breakdown?
I don't have those numbers.
Okay.
I mean, it's not going to be.
But
like
our
we're-
share is $250,000.
Our share would be somewhere between 2 and 250.
we would be putting in a fiber optic loop in the town, essentially, that will connect us with Emerson and Westwood, as well as the
Hillsdale.
school district,
In the school district.
and the school district. Will that have an impact on the radio system?
No, I don't believe so.
I don't think
It's
so.
a different story.
Well, I mean, if we, so if we're going to put the, okay.
Well, you do have areas where right now we are unavailable on that system, and you would be able to connect all the areas with the one that we're talking about in question.
Well, to Mr. Holman's point, that there is a way via fiber to boost the signal within a building for a radio system. Without fiber, it's difficult and very expensive to do.
Without fiber.
Correct.
You're just using conventional repeaters, and several of them with battery backup.
The fiber takes so low energy to push it out.
You're hardwired, basically.
And we may have buildings that will need some kind of in-building system.
This insure all the schools in Township? Parochial also? Thank you.
Well, I can tell you, from the radio perspective, it's a pretty important piece, because we know there's a couple of schools that will have weak to no coverage.
Yes,
Having fiber at the school can
it eliminates that.
solve the problem. Still a cost to the radio side of it.
Yeah, there's
to
still
make it all
equipment,
dance,
but it
you
makes
know,
it
we
will
can-
operate a lot better. with
Tie
this.
into.
It's something, you know,
Transmitter.
it's the difference between having a cell phone that you might get it, or a hard line where you know you're going to get it unless someone severs it. And the nice thing about it, it's a loop. There's workarounds when you do it in the town. It's not one direct
Our own repeater on top of it.
T-line. Is that what it is, the T-lines?
T-lines,
Okay, so it goes around the T-line, so
T1 lines.
T1, T2.
And it cuts the necessity out to have that kind of
Repeaters.
dedicated copper.
Yeah,
The T1s are-
Copper's a thing of the past.
Terribly expensive and not necessarily as dependable anymore as they used to be.
Okay.
So when we talk about doing dispatch with county or Northwest or Westwood, you had to have a T-line, okay? With this, not necessary. And that T-line is a huge expense.
Yeah, they are.
It's a huge expense.
We used to hook up the buildings to energy management systems with T-lines and run all the county telephones out of T-lines, and they were thousands of dollars a month.
I'm sure we have one.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a trunk line coming in here
Yeah,
now. We're paying for it.
Yeah, well, I
Because
mean,
the state requires it.
what's our cost on that? Do you have any idea, Mr. Towell? What would you
I haven't
estimate?
looked, but it's a lot.
It may, I don't know for sure if it would eliminate that cost, but it.
It should if we have the, yeah.
It should, as long as the state is up, the state can handle the upgrade, which I believe that part of it can handle the fiber.
I mean, the courts.
No, it's
No,
for
the state,
Oh, yes.
so again, you're upgrading to something that is going to be is now, and will be the future in the
Until
long term.
technology gets
Yeah.
even better.
I don't, I got a feeling there's going to be a limit to how much better it gets.
Yeah.
What do you
I
think?
don't want to
for
say.
What do you think, Mike Holman? Are you okay with it?
I would, so, we're talking about $250,000. You know, we are looking at, and I view this as a communication, you know, whether it's data or voice or video. And we have a $750,000 radio system that we're contemplating. So my only concern, and I'm still not clear, other than putting a high-capacity loop, which again, if we were on a college campus and we were running large machines and needed large data to move around, I don't see the upside, but perhaps I don't understand it completely, or I need further explanation. My concern is that we're talking about this, we're talking about a radio system. I don't know if anyone has considered the impact on each other, if there is an interoperability question, if they have nothing to do with each other, and I'm just talking out, talking nonsense. But to me, I would think that if we're talking about a radio system, which is comms, we're talking about a high-speed network, which is comms, that there is some intersection of that, those two projects. And if we're going to fund both of them, someone should own figuring out what that is. So that's why. So we could put it in.
Mr. Bruno, you okay with putting it in?
I mean, I'm not, yeah, I mean, we could put it in. I'm not in favor of spending any money for it, though, because I don't really understand enough of it. Nor do I understand the cost of how it's going to work, but if you want to put it as a placeholder, that's fine.
Dr. Casio, you
I
brought it
would,
up.
I would appreciate the place. I don't ask for much, and this is something I think it's going to benefit everyone. It's going to fix those holes we have, and those holes.
Well, if
the
it'll,
holes are
I'd like the radio consultant to chime in on this, Mr. Tovo,
Okay.
without getting into detail. If this is going to help with the issue you brought up and make it go away, I'm all in favor of it. If it's not going to make it go away, then I'm kind of on the fence with it. But if it's going to make, you know the issues I'm talking about.
I do.
We
If it-
all know those issues.
Yeah.
We know that it's
A huge issue.
a
And
huge issue.
But wasn't the 750 supposed to take care of that? That was
It's
my-
still using repeater technology. It's still using repeater
So
technology to
what's the
take care.
750 going to do then?
Well,
Well,
my
can't
understanding,
do-
Gotta be
no
careful
radio
what you
system
say.
is 100%. And so it will help to get, like, the new radio system might, I'll throw out numbers, get us from 50 to 70%. But no, nothing will get you up. Is that kind of correct, Bob?
Yeah,
Your
and-
understanding?
No radio technology is going to penetrate the inside of, thick walls and large buildings. So, over decades, technology has advanced where you now have the in-building radio systems designed for first responders to have communications. That's on the homeowner or the property owner to install those systems, not on the owner of the radio system. So it would make that addition for these buildings we identify that have a need for it much more affordable and much more compatible with any radio system we put in.
If we had this dedicated loop.
But this radio system,
Yeah,
This one or
to tie
some
it
kind of
to-
fiber, yeah.
this radio system we're discussing here is going to put the police, the fire, and the DMF on a single platform and with similar equipment, because this is hardware and software, correct?
And the ambulance also.
And the ambulance. Today, it's disjointed. Is that?
Correct.
So, at a minimum, it puts everyone on
Gives you continuity.
like
And it puts-
platform.
And it gives us the frequency that the state is requiring us to be on, correct, Mr. Tovo?
The state's not requiring
Well-
which frequency we're on, but the frequency that we're on has the potential to go away sometime in the near future.
Correct.
It's also not effective and not giving us the coverage that we need. The system we're currently testing right now is owned by the state, and all indications are, right now, it is compatible for better coverage than we have now. We may have to add a repeater or other device to boost signal where we need to, but when it comes to any private dwellings that we can't penetrate, it would be on them to do so. A fiber network would make that project much more
Cost-effective
doable
for
for
them.
them, yeah.
Okay. I'm okay with the
And
placeholder.
we talk about, wiring in the future, putting cameras. We have a problem with vandalism at our parks. There are intersections where we have a lot of accidents. That would really help us, especially in the public safety aspect. I mean, it might not be this year, maybe years down the road, we put in the budget to let our dispatch and our police be able to hook in there without actually going and keeping an eye on things.
Are they pulling wire? Are they pulling fiber?
Yes.
Through-
Yeah.
Through the entire town?
Not the entire town.
So if we're talking about parks.
Correct.
and Adding CCTV to parks, we have a park down by the parkway.
Yeah, but I'm saying it's not going up and down every street. They're not going down Beach. And they may go down Beach to get to
Yeah,
Clark or
they'll hit
something,
schools, they'll
but they're
hit
not going to go
parks.
down Mountain and Fern.
That's,
They can
that's my question.
Whatever we choose to tell them, Steve, is my recollection, right? To say we want to include
I
these X
believe we want
locations.
But I don't know if I misunderstood you. They're not going down every street
Well,
in
that's-
Township.
Yeah, that was my question.
No, they're
because
not.
We're saying that we're going to have capacity at the parks.
We
our-
will, they will bring a line to the park so we can have, but they're not going to give, they're not going down Mountain, Fern, Hickory, they're not going down every
The main
block unless.
thoroughfares.
They're probably going to go down the main
Hence-
streets.
Hence the word loop.
And then have a branch coming off the main loop to get to Clark or to
And if
Sherry
you
or
need
wherever.
access somewhere in some remote area, they can always run a line if, the town so desires.
And I'm also going to say it may give the residents more options, because if they do parts of the town, but then 10 residents on a block say, hey, I want to sign up for that, then they just branch off onto that, so it may give the residents another.
I'm not even looking at that part, because that's
No,
something.
I'm not either, but it may be an
Yeah, but
option.
it's always
To
an
have
option.
another provider who's providing that service, which
And
is
again,
good for
it's-
cost for the
again,
residents.
just like your cell phone. I get single here, I go to the other side of the building.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, can you hear me? No. This would cover that particular
All right.
aspect.
So if we
I
can-
would-
This has no impact or reduction to the 750.
No.
To the
No,
surge
it's not.
itself.
It wouldn't.
All right, so if we could add that, Judy, to the capital.
Placeholder, and I'll bring the company in with, we could.
Could they come in and give us a presentation?
They can give us a presentation.
I think you need a lot more information.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you want to add the 250?
Add the 250 as communication fiber network, townwide communication fiber network.
Thank you.
Can I just ask one question about the police policies and SOPs? Why is that in 20 as opposed to 19?
Which one?
Under police, third line, fourth line, fifth line, I guess.
Isn't that because
Police
it's
policy.
certified or something like that?
And
Takes
SOPs?
a couple of years.
Well, there's a couple of factors here. Number one, through the course of 2019, we can update many of the policies so they're compliant with the accreditation process. I think it's going to be a difficult year to have a smooth run at that with a changeover,
Right.
New Year's End with the police chief's position. So we feel it's better to fund it in 2020, because once you fund it, there's now a clock. All right?
Yeah, how long is that clock ticking?
2 years.
2 years.
So this is the,
2 years for the,
years for the
to use grant
certification.
money to offset this dollar amount, if we even get it, but if
So
we
you
get it.
want, we're gonna do most of the heavy lifting now before that clock starts ticking.
Correct.
That's what I thought.
So you understand, the policy development is one piece of it. We can accomplish much of that on our own, but once you develop the policy, you have to prove the policy is being utilized. That's what takes time.
Okay.
and that is, so this is not for the development, this is for a contractor to assist us in getting,
I believe their
Certified.
pricing here was a combination of both the development and providing the proofs. So going forward.
It may be less.
Maybe less.
and we funded the document management system, whatever, RDMS was it, or
DMS,
DMS?
we have, as in current.
Yeah, that was one of the numbers we took out, right?
No, that was never a cap.
That was never capped, that was always in their budget, yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Anything else, gentlemen, on capital?
Before we move on, is it okay to move that EMF Class 2 pickup back to 19? I can say, speaking for DMF, very rarely do they feel strongly about digging their feet in on a need, and this time they certainly did.
Which one did you do?
The class
The
2 pickup?
49,000.
So it says the 2004 Class 2 pickup, bed rotted out, floorboards rotted out, actually has hole on the driver's side. Liftgate recently almost fell off, jury-rigged with pieces of scrap metal, bolts and welds. Liftgate also rotted. I mean, that's the really ugly truck that should even be on the road. Fuel gauge has not worked in years, was told the underbody was too rusted to drop the tank in to repair the gauge. Blows smoke, piston rings rejected, injectors rejected. The truck is shot.
I hope this truck isn't even on the road right now.
I don't think it is, right? Because that's the one with the
No,
gas tank, or is it on the road?
It's used if we need to use it.
Gotcha. So they're asking that be put back into 19?
Correct.
What say you, gentlemen?
I didn't realize how bad it is, and it seems like that they need it for the leaf, specifically for leaf and snow, right?
Snow plowing, yes.
Yeah, let's be honest, I mean, when it comes to a lot of other tasks, can they work around not having the vehicle? Sure, it makes the job more
Right.
difficult, maybe longer, but snow...
These are the two major
snow and
tasks that we
leaves,
need.
You need to get 9 trucks on the road to be effective.
I'm sorry, 9 trucks?
8 to 9 trucks on the road. So if you, and when we take out of the equation, we'll slow us down somewhere. We had a good year, let's keep it that way.
Okay.
How long does it take to get?
Class 2 pickups aren't usually stock items, we can get it pretty quickly.
That'd be under state contract, right?
Yes.
When you say quick, you're talking 2 months, a month?
I would say
It's a couple months.
2 by the time we place the order.
So to be here by the end of summer, hopefully, if
Yeah.
everything goes well.
How long does it take to get the $240,000 one?
Year and a half.
That one's gonna be a while, yeah. Class 7's gonna
So
be
why don't we move that out?
Well, we're funding that for this year, yeah. That's-
funded this year, but
But you will get it until
hopes to get it next year. Well,
2021.
we'll definitely get it by 20, but, you know,
Well,
That's what I'm saying.
it's a year, year and a half. We're almost, well, April, June.
Yeah, it's April.
So you're talking,
If you get it by next April, you'd be happy, but you probably
Yeah, you're not
won't. You
gonna
probably
get it
get it
by
by summer of next
and
year.
we've ordered the Class 5 with hopes we'll get that in this year.
The Class 5 has been ordered.
Yes.
Is that the last request on capital that we want to move, Mr. Tova? Or do you have any others?
I believe that's all I have.
What do you want to do, gentlemen?
listen, if they need it for snow removal, our biggest complaint, we don't get our snow up fast enough. I'm saying if we're buying it, it better be used.
It will be.
Mr. Clement?
Sure.
Mr. Bruno?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, again, we got a lot of stuff here, folks. We keep adding, we move, you know. If they can work around it till next year, I would do it, get the other 240 in there.
I don't believe they can.
I thought you said they could.
I said I don't believe they can,
No, before that, I thought you said if you had to work around it, you could work around it.
except for
Not
snow and leaves.
Leaf.
So what'd they do this year? They didn't use it?
They did use it. Now, they abandoned it, if you read the memo, but now it's just too far gone to try to revive.
Is this the memo we just got?
Yes.
Okay?
I didn't read it.
That sounds pretty scary. Truck 9, that's what we're talking about replacing?
Truck 2. Truck 2. I just read truck 34, excuse me. It's truck 34, 2004 Class 2 pickup truck.
It's a very colorful description.
We're talking 2 areas that the residents see, leaf and snow. And if this truck is as bad as it is, I doubt it would pass inspection, and I have a trouble with it being on the road at all. If it's not something I would ride in personally, I wouldn't ask anyone else to do it.
So,
I've driven a lot of junk.
Yeah,
It's,
me too,
Pretty
right.
scary.
that's fine. So, I would say move it in, but I do think that it would be helpful, and I did ask Bill, the superintendent, to provide a list, which he did, but I think it could be built out more, because I think it would be beneficial for us to understand the rolling stock and what trucks we have, when they were put into service, you know, how many miles they have, you know.
I mean, 15 years out of this pickup truck's a long time. We got our money out of that.
Yeah, it's,
And mileage on these vehicles
Working
is
pickup.
not really relevant because they get so much local use. It's
there's
like what
50.
happened, the bodies rot around it.
It's idle
Because,
time.
yeah.
snowplow trucks at 50,000.
Well, then give me the hours on them. I mean,
reverse.
there has to be a measurement. I mean, first of all, we're sitting here, we're talking about the 9 trucks. Can anyone tell me the 9 trucks that we're running?
I thought we had a list of those submitted.
You do.
We did get
You
a
got
list.
Of the trucks?
Yes.
Mr.
Rolling
Lawler
stock,
sent
yeah.
us a list of all the trucks.
No, I
And,
handed it out to everybody.
and
Our first budget meeting.
Yeah.
their mileage was not on that. So Pete says that that's not irrelevant. So what is the relevant measure? Is it hours on them? Is it, how quickly, or what's the useful life of these? Because I think we should understand that if we buy the Class 7, we're adding that to one, is that the same class as the 2 that are out there that we bought last year? And are we then going to have 3 large trucks that are coming due at the same time 15 years from now? Or is that not relevant?
Is that a possibility? Of course it is. But that's because,
We didn't replace them when we were
Exactly.
supposed to replace them.
So-
We had to replace them when the axle fell off in the middle of Pascack Road, which is not anybody's, it's not our fault. Again, it's no PM on the vehicles. If you got a 15-year-old truck, I mean, it's been out in the snow, it's been out in the salt, it's a plow, they get beat up.
I mean, a lot of these issues are because we keep our equipment outside, okay? And I know it's low mileage, but they get heavy use. They're not just driving around town. They're hauling stuff, they're pushing stuff. So the miles does not indicate its use. I'm
to Mr.
sure-
Allman's point, I think it's fair that we give a better breakdown of the vehicles.
Oh, I
with a
agree with-
description of what each vehicle
I agree with
is
Mike.
responsible for.
I agree. A
A little difficult to put
No, and I agree with his.
a qualifier on mileage and hours and all
Right.
of that. But I can tell you, when I see the DMF every day, they will keep something as long as they possibly can.
Sure.
Duct tape, glue, whatever it takes. When they say they need a truck, that truck replaced 5 years before.
No, but that, to Mr. Ullman's point, we're replacing these vehicles altogether, so they're gonna go bad altogether, but we don't have a choice.
Well, if you don't stagger them in the beginning,
I can't
you
speak for
stagger
other
them later on.
administrations.
Correct, yeah.
They may have brought this to someone's attention, got rebuffed, here we are.
Well, here's the thing, when I first got on the council, all the trucks were 20 years old. And we started replacing one at a time, but we had 2 garbage trucks go in the same year. So you need the garbage trucks, but you can't stagger them, you have to have them. So what
And they both
happens when
went
you go
bad
to
the
try to
same.
stagger them next time, you can't because you bought them in the same year. It's very difficult, unless you don't have services for a year, how are you gonna stagger it? It's very, very hard. It should have been done in the beginning. And to Mr. DeSantis.
And we will make every effort to do that now, to the extent that we can.
Well, we talk about this, we got these big capital outlays, what a lot of towns do. Every year, they put $10,000 or $15,000 away, and by the time you need that new truck, it's not in your capital budget, it's in your regular budget, and you just pull it out. That's something we can do. We did that with the, I think we're doing that with Scott Packs now.
We did it with the ambulance,
We did it with
gave
the
them-
ambulance, we did it with the turnout gear, because that's big numbers.
Yep.
When they're all due. So if you want to put something in, a placeholder, another line, okay, we're putting 15,000 or 10,000 or 20,000 away for the next truck coming up. That takes, this is a bite. This is a huge capital project budget. But if you don't plan in advance, then you really have no choice. Our hands are tied, just like future councils, if we don't do it a
Now,
different way.
it's even worse.
They're gonna be stuck with the same dilemma.
Steel.
In researching, Mike, you brought up last night, the ladder truck. That ladder truck was requested 6 years ago at a cost of $990,000. And just the wait, I know we've been waiting because we were trying to figure out what we're doing to fire, but that's costing us an extra $520,000 because we waited. I know there was other factors that went along with this, but that's what happens with this stuff. you know, I saw the request 6 years ago for $980.
I think that truck was a little bit less than what they're asking for now. I don't think it's like oranges to oranges with that truck.
No, it's not a custom truck any longer, so it's less than what it would be if we customized it to make it fit in our existing firehouse.
Yes, but I'm just saying it's not the same. We have to do it now because of the standards, but it's not this. I can't say truck X 9 years ago or 6 years ago would be the same truck we're ordering today, is what I'm saying to you.
It's $520,000 more today.
The same exact truck.
Well, this is a cheaper truck because we're not customizing it like we would to fit it in the firehouse.
Okay, so,
All right, gentlemen, we okay with moving that to 19? Yes? Mr. Tova, you had one more thing you wanted to add to the budget, the last page from Ford?
The last
I
page,
don't know, what's the call for that? Are we moving it or not moving it?
Are we moving it, gentlemen? Sorry.
We're talking about the 49,000?
49,000.
I
I'm
vote
okay
yes.
with it.
Mr.
Yes.
Mr. Bruno? Mr. Cumming?
Oh, yeah, I did.
Okay, you did.
Oh, I did already.
So the last thing you had in your handout, Mr. Tovo, is the Ford emails?
yeah, it's a quote from one of the local Ford dealerships on state contract, giving us lease pricing for 2019 Ford Police Interceptor utility package. Funding for this I've put into current fund under police vehicle leasing. We have discussed going to a leasing program in the past. Once the money is in current, we can explore the option of leasing versus outright buying. Just a quick look at it today. We probably would realize the savings even in year one by leasing our fleet as opposed to buying it outright. I need to explore it a little bit further. But with all that said, the two vehicles that we currently have under lease are up in February and March of 2020. So if we wait till 2020 to buy it in capital, we're going to go several months without vehicles at all.
Okay.
And those two critical roles for chief and detective. So we budgeted for one vehicle under a lease for sometime in 2019.
And what's the difference between the three options, Mr. Tovo?
The term.
The term.
There's a 3, 4, and 5-year term.
Oh, I see. And these are closed-end leases, so we can buy these
There's a
vehicles?
$1 buyout at the end.
Oh, wow.
And you can't extend the existing leases once they're done,
No.
like the other cars?
No, you can't and you wouldn't want to. These vehicles were not suited for the work they're doing. The restrictions on modifications makes it impossible to properly mount anything in the vehicle. Any light, any radio, anything in that car is just a projectile.
This is fully equipped, or are we putting stuff from other vehicles in there, computers? What-
These vehicles are minimally equipped, as most, unmarked packages are, so that price does reflect everything they need in it that they don't currently have for it. So if they need a computer in there, they have a computer to put in there.
But that's the same whether you lease or buy.
Correct.
You're gonna have those costs.
Okay, so, in addition to
And this is the
40
vehicle our current chief and his upper
The
management,
Bureau.
detective bureau recommends they want to go with the police interceptor back to the Fords and deal with that.
Remember, first, they're
Because we have Hyundais now that we don't like.
Right.
Because nothing fits in them and they're the wrong vehicle.
completely impractical.
So, if you wouldn't mind, Mr. Strovo, 43,250, how much more to equip it with exactly what we need? What's the add-on cost?
That's the total cost.
That should be the total.
That's everything that they need.
Well, no, but there's transferring of pieces from the Hyundais into these cars.
Okay, so there's nothing,
This company-
other than the stuff that's already in the Hyundai that we're gonna transfer, there's no other costs involved other than installation of,
Yeah, the installation of the radio, the light package is already there, so they need to add a light or two, that would be an additional cost, but it should really just be install cost of radio and antenna.
okay, another $2,000 per car,
No.
something like that, not
I
even
would
that.
say no more than $1,000 per car.
Okay, all right.
So this would be 4 cars for the police department, the 2 that they have plus these 2?
No,
Well, there's only one we're recommending from
This
a
year.
lease program this year. The other 2 are currently funded in current,
Right.
but we will look at other leasing options for them if we can find an economical way to maintain the fleet, roll it over properly, and maybe bring that line item down.
But there are two now in the current fund,
Correct.
plus these two. Or am I missing something?
Okay, well, I'm only recommending one.
Oh, only recommending one of
Yes,
these.
another one next year. But the two that are currently on lease expire early in 2020, so if we wait for 2020's budget, it'll be too late to get those cars replaced timely enough where we're still in full operation.
So you're only recommending one.
Yeah, but they gave us 3-year, 4-year, and
I just
5-year.
want to understand that. I know I asked it. So
I am, Rick.
there's two done. We approved that in the current fund, and now you're asking, not you, but somebody.
Just as I was asking in the capital, we're asking for one, I'm only asking for one funded via lease through current.
Starting late in the year, maybe order it in
Correct.
October or something?
Yeah, we're to make sure it's here and equipped and ready to go in time for
The
the
two
first
give-
vehicle to go off.
To go back.
If it's a chief's car and the detective's car with limited personnel using it, is there any reason that it might not be expected reasonably to last 5 years?
It'll last 5 years.
No more, just 5.
I'm saying it'll last 5 years.
At least,
No, don't worry about that.
That's, you know,
yeah.
I
I
was
think they
surprised
look
they
at
don't get
5 to
7
7
a little.
on their
rather
executive
than
vehicles.
Shift to shift to shift with the patrol
Right.
cars.
You'll get
Yeah,
a good 5 years plus.
yeah. Because some of us had one car in Fairlawn and we kept those cars nice.
Right.
We were in
They're there
them
forever, right?
all day.
Yeah.
Kept them for a long
Yeah,
time.
with the 2 Hyundais so far, like they're brand new.
I think it's remarkable that the road department got, since 2004, out of a truck. because
Yeah, with the use
I'm
they put
pushing
it
my-
through.
I'm pushing my 4Runner to, and it's 10 years old, 11 years old.
Gentlemen, are we okay with Mr. Tovo proceeding to lease one of these vehicles in the current, there's enough money in the current line item to do this, Mr. Tovo, you think?
No, there's just no money added to it.
There was
They
additional
took the
money.
money out of capital
Yeah,
for the
not
one.
all of it. I mean,
And that would bring the annual
So
down to
what
about
line item is it in the
1069,
current, please?
which is a reasonable figure.
Page 34.
34, Judy?
Mr. Tovo,
Yes.
the warranty on these vehicles, what is that like? Is it for the length of the term? Or is it standard length of 1 year or 3 years?
So it's 901-25241-000?
Do you know what that is?
Fleet vehicles have a very short,
Probably a year, right? Or something like that, so it doesn't,
a year is standard
a
on
year
fleet vehicles.
standard? Okay.
And to that point, you can buy the extended for up to 3 years if we want to go with a 3-year lease turnaround, and would be something to look at.
Okay, because that would make, to me, it would probably help in the decision how we'd want to go.
So on page 34, gentlemen, we're looking at the increase, Bob has added 12,000 to 241,000. It's the first line of police vehicle leasing on page 34.
And we can bring that down because if we were anticipating, closer to 12 months, the reality is we're not going to be anywhere near that.
Yeah, that would be a full year, 4-year
Right.
lease, you're saying?
Yeah, so we could certainly bring that down by, a couple $1,000s easily.
They don't do any better on the funding? 7.5%? I mean, is this our only option?
I mean, I didn't investigate it, but,
There's
like
very
it's
few
four.
options for
yeah.
police vehicle leasing, and
Ford Credit.
Ford is
money.
by far the biggest in the game, so, and they are recognized by New Jersey to provide the program.
So in line 25-245-000, we have an acquisition of 2 vehicles, is that correct? Plus we have an increase now of this lease, plus there's another one in capital that you're moving?
I'm sure you're looking at the 117,500?
Yep.
245, yes, that is for 2 new frontline vehicles. There are currently no vehicles in capital for 2019.
Right, that's the one you moved, right?
And that's the one I moved to line 25-241-000. Currently budgeted 16,800, but we can reduce that number down.
We bring it down to what, you think, Bob?
I think we can bring it down to, call it 10,000 and then.
10 grand?
Yeah.
So gentlemen, 25-241-000, the budgeted amount would be $10,000, not 16,800, because we're going to do the lease late in the year. So Judy, that's a minus $6,800.
What page was that on again?
Page 34,
At
first
the
line.
top.
So that's what, 10?
10, yes. We okay with that, gentlemen?
So it's minus 68.
Minus 6,800.
Is it 10 for a full year, though?
No, it's for partial year, he had said, because we're not,
This is vehicle
we're going to probably
acquisition.
get it in October, he said.
So it wouldn't be 10 for October, November, December.
No, but there's still cars under lease. The Hyundais are still in there.
The Hyundai still have to be paid for the rest of the
For the
year.
whole year.
Yeah.
And through February, you said.
Well, that's
Right,
the
that'd be
next
the next
year.
budget.
So February, so January we'll have 3 lease cars. The 2 that go back in February plus this one.
Well, this one's not going back. The 2 Hyundais will go back
No,
in
there's 2 that
February,
are
March.
going back in February, right? 2 lease cars that go back in February.
One in February,
This-
one in
this
March.
car- February, March, and then this one's going to be leased. So in January 1, we'll have 3 leased cars.
For 3 months.
Right.
Then we'll go back to 1.
Are we okay with the 10,000, gentlemen? Yes? All right, that takes care of this memo, Mr. Tovo, right?
Yes.
We had one other request from Mr. Bruno regarding the one salary line item.
Well, 2, the salary line item and the 45,000 from Township.
Yeah, well, that was
Why
Mrs.
did you
Curran
say?
was supposed to find out about the 45,000 for Town Day.
And actually, I didn't get to do that. I could do it tomorrow. The only thing is because I didn't go to lunch today, but I had to leave. I had someone in the family died. I had to go to a wake and hope.
Sorry to hear that.
So. But we both did look at it. It is rather confusing. I
It
can't
is
guarantee
confusing.
that we'll
I
have
know Bob did a
an
little
answer in a
look, and
day.
he couldn't-
So send out an email to the council with the information once we
I'll
have
look
it?
at it tomorrow, yes.
And I guess Mr. Bruno's second question was the one salary line item, let me find it.
What page are we on?
I know what he's referring to.
I'd like
Not
to,
sure what the
yeah,
question is, though.
what the actual salary was in
Well,
28.
you said the
Yeah.
payroll register was 60, and the W-2 was the question, which I understand was 45.
And the W-2 reflects what's shown in the budget for that line item.
Which is
And the
45?
6 is, yes, and the 60 was the salary, annual salary that the employee moved to late in 2018, so that number was never realized. So that was my misunderstanding of what I was given. That may have, added to the confusion, but there was an increase in salary, but it was never realized because it was late in the year.
So did the payroll register show 60 or not?
No, did not. There was a notation on the side of it noting 60, but that notation was to indicate that's what the salary went to, but because it was late in the year,
It didn't
nobody was
reach
going to
that.
realize that amount.
But was the annualized salary on December 31st the lower number or the higher number?
The higher number.
It is 60.
That wasn't the realized amount, but that was,
No, understood, but that's a timing issue. The
Right.
So
amount,
has the last 3 months been paid at the 60 amount or at the 45 amount?
it would still be, based on where it ended in 18, still be that same.
But the W-2 is 45.
The W-2 is 45.
But
There
she
was a
started in-
notation to go
It
to
didn't.
60, and they apparently didn't get it.
But they've been getting it all this year.
Right.
Oh, I
This
see
is-
what you're saying. So it started 1/1 of this year, not last year. Okay.
Well, they didn't get in this year, I
Okay,
guess, I
see
don't
what
know.
you're saying.
they made the adjustment, it sounds like there was a salary action late in the year. So even though the actual and the W-2 reflect 45, the annualized amount on 12/31
Was
was 60, and that 60 has continued forward.
And who approved the paperwork on that?
I don't know.
The only
I haven't
thing
had to even look
you're
for all the
saying
paperwork yet.
annualized, Are you saying, because I don't want to think of annualized, I'm thinking if you're saying it was annualized at 60, then that means it would have been a catch-up, like a retro to get to 60, that's not what
No,
happened?
it's not.
No, I'm meaning
So I'm
that.
just confused about the
It-
W-2 and,
So I believe, and I'm sure your records will be reviewed, and so the W-2 is the W-2, and that's what
Right.
she, the individual took home for
Right.
the calendar year 2018.
right.
At the end of the year, an adjustment was made to the rate. That adjustment put the rate
Carried
at
it.
60. And I don't know how many pay periods it reflected for 2018, but in 2019, on January 1st, it continues at the higher number.
Correct.
Okay.
So we had all the people doing payroll now, so somebody had to approve this, can we
There
find
should
out?
be a
who
personal
approved it?
action
As
form.
soon as I get through this, I will go find that.
I mean, that was part of the question, that's the big thing, is how we approved.
I realize it was part of the question, but
No, it
there've
was-
been a lot of questions and a lot of requests, so the budgetary ones are the ones that have to prioritize.
Right,
and
but
get
this
done
was
first.
a serious violation of procedural issue, that the council approved the salary and an amount was paid other than what we approved. So the question is again, we figured it out, we think, but who approved this increase?
What line item is that?
Gotta be a form.
In our-
Somebody
It is
gotta
on
sign a
page,
form.
it's on page 10 and 11.
Oh, it's the
Peter,
top
do you
and
know?
bottom?
It's, no,
I'm sorry, Bob, I
Do you
was
know?
distracted for a moment. Well,
Do you know how?
I'm sorry.
I do not.
I'm sorry,
No.
Dr. Casio. The one position falls under 90120 130 160 for 10,000
What
request.
page?
Page 10.
Page 10.
It's the last line, and the other position falls on,
Difference does it make?
Makes a big difference.
Oh, we adjusted it up.
It's the tax collector, 145, 110.
what page is that?
It's still a budget, and we
Page is
can
different.
change it.
10,
That's what I had
That's,
said, but
that's the thing, so, you know.
45, 168.
I was voted against it, so.
Well,
So
Bob,
gentlemen, they're both on,
we,
hold on, let me just
No
find
problem.
this.
I'm working from the new pages.
we
I
didn't
was
have
given
all the
last night.
information. at
Judy,
the
do you know
time,
where
and we
that
did not
falls, that
approve
one? Tax
That
collector?
total number, we
Oh,
took it
tax
down.
collector?
That was
Yeah.
requested.
Tax collector?
0120, 145,
Yeah,
What page?
145,
bottom
110.
of 12.
Oh, it's on bottom of 12, okay. So the one line falls on the bottom of page 10, and the
Right.
other line falls on the bottom of page 12 for 45, 168.
45,
So, you know, Bob, I think is,
You must be working off the old page numbers.
No, I have the new page numbers,
Do
you
have
just
the
handed
new
out
one
one
we
tonight.
gave you?
Tonight.
Tonight?
so it's 160 and 110, right? Is what we're talking? Correct?
He doesn't have a new.
Excuse me, Steve, Counsel?
I'm talking about, those are the two numbers.
I don't have a new.
Right now, the new salary is 55, 168, gentlemen.
I have a number of 45, 168.
And then the 10,000 for benefits
There's
coordinator.
10,000 on another page.
Yeah, on page 10.
Yeah,
Do you want to revise that, gentlemen?
here. No.
Mr. Bruno?
I'm just trying to understand if I'm the only one concerned that.
I'm concerned
No,
that-
no, so
We don't know how it went through.
Well, yeah, I wanted, because that,
How does somebody
Some-
get a raise without being given
Some-
permission to
yeah.
get a raise?
so I think the issue is, and I think Bob is, you know, trying to be as diplomatic as possible, as best he can, Mr.
Right.
Bruno, is that this is a serious problem. There is a serious issue, or I believe, this is my opinion, that there is an issue in our control environment. So, and I'm not sure we know all of the issues, because we had to move money at the last meeting to support a outside consultant to do a tax reconciliation that wasn't done. who was responsible, who wasn't, who knows? We had to move money, we had to pay an outside consultant to do a tax reconciliation. When we started the budget, there was a question raised, how are we doing the budgeting? You know, is it a bottoms up, is it a tops down, is it a run rate? We said it's run rate. One of the first major issues, first major expenses that we came across was the caning group. And we put that over 3 different lines, just so, because that's where the money was, and it was easy, and it was expedient, but it wasn't proper. I don't feel it's proper. I mean, that's my opinion.
If you were gonna, if it wasn't budgeted for, where were you gonna put it?
We do a budget movement, we do a reclass.
We could have at the end of the year, I suppose, but
Well,
Wasn't
the
high
fact is
priority.
that we spread it out and we lose visibility into it. So
obviously
now,
not, you found it.
well, because I had the details.
You know what, I'm sorry,
But
can
I
I
don't,
interrupt 1 second? That is the wrong answer. That is not the answer we're here to hear, that we found it. We should have been told that there's all this money spread throughout the ledger. We found it because we go through this painstakingly. The answer to us was not, obviously you found it. That's the wrong answer.
You're right, it is. I apologize.
you know, we have a salary, we have been told from day one that we, the council, control a budget that has been proposed by the administration. There are checks and balances that if you have a control account, if you have a line item, that you can't exceed that. And it seems that somehow we did. Now, I don't know, but it seems like we did.
I'm just concerned that there's other people that aren't,
That we're not catching.
There's,
that we're not catching.
You know-
We're picking on this one because it was very visible to us because we made a policy decision.
Let's just-
I'm sorry, Mike.
We're not picking.
and just the last one that
No, we're
I'll
seeing this
throw
one.
out
Yes,
is,
yes.
you know, the town day. So again, people, you know, why are you against town day? Why do you need to know all of this information? Why do you need to understand what it costs to put on town day? I can ask that, I feel, as a councilman, and, you know, I don't think it's unreasonable to ask that. We were given information last night, and you know what, there's a $45,000 number that, at the moment, we don't understand where it came from, and it's going to be further investigated, and I'm sure we're going to get a good answer. But, you know, in the moment, you know, one of the reasons I ran is I felt I had something to bring to the table from a control perspective, from understanding some level of finance. Mike walks down the street, he sees a sewer that's misaligned, he knows there's a problem. I walk down the street, I don't see anything. When I hear reconciliations, you know, excess, you know, overspending a line item, you know, this transfer in the town day fund, you know, it causes a concern to me. And we have an auditor, we have a new CFO, we have an administrator. To me, you know, I have some concerns, and I feel that, you know, we've churned over the finance department, we've churned over the administrator, we've churned over other areas, and, you know, things may have fallen through the crack. And it is a concern of mine as a councilman. And I am not laying it at the feet of anyone at this table who is new. So Judy, no, I mean, you came in December. Bob, you came in November or October. You know, these occurred earlier in the year.
Correct.
You know, we have to find out what happened with this salary. And I do think that, you know, going through this is a good exercise, and I think it has highlighted some control issues, and I have noted them, and I am bringing them to the attention of the auditor, because I think they need to be reviewed in a little more detail.
Thank you, Mr. Bowman. I think that was a fair statement. I'm just concerned that there's other, you know, spending issues that we have that we haven't fully dug deep enough, that I hope the checks and balances are there to, you know, going forward. You know, Judy, I know you have a lot of catch-up work to do, but, you know, I hope going into 2020, that we don't have these issues. I don't want to have Mr. Ullman, I don't want to see a $45,000 transfer that we don't know what's going on.
Well-
And I hope you've been given the authority to make sure that that doesn't
Well, I
occur.
can tell you, I would never do anything like that. I mean, that's not the way I work.
Okay.
Well, on 45, we don't really know enough to even draw a conclusion as to
No,
what
I
happened
agree.
there.
But I'm not saying anything was done wrong, but we've hired Judy, we've hired you, Bob. We expect things to be straightened out, and I know we've set I think everyone on the council, and including the mayor, we've set a date where we hope things start gelling. We know things are gelling and they're going in the right direction, and we're always gonna have, things popping up from the past that we gotta deal with. But I hope everything we've done going forward, we're doing the way it's supposed to be done. And, I think, some of the things Mike's brought up about, the auditor not catching this stuff, it's kind of,
It's worrisome.
it's worrisome that, what else didn't, Mr. Bruno, Mr. Ullman, myself, all of us have spent a lot of time going through this, but what did we miss, like that? Because,
We're not forensic accountants.
We're not forensic accountants.
I can only speak for myself. I don't
we're
know.
paying for these, we're paying the
Well, I would
auditors,
say
we're
if
paying the
something-
reconciliation.
If this happened in 2018, that audit hasn't been done yet.
Exactly.
So, and usually what happens when someone gets a bump, they look for, like a personal action form or a resolution or something like that, And as far as the transfer and trust for that 45,000, that was also 18, so that may come up. Well, we don't know.
It may be an audit.
It may, we don't know.
So
I
just,
When you say something that's not wrong, it is wrong. It's wrong that 45,000 disappeared, and we have no clue why or where. That's wrong. And it's unconscionable if somebody took 45,000 out of some reserve and transferred it somewhere else for some reason, then they should lose their job and be fired. If they haven't already been.
okay. So, Dr. Cassidy, you have anything you want to say on this? I know, Mr. Bruno, you have anything you want to add?
Well, the reason why we're here, we have three functions. Pass ordinances, which this is part of that, do and approve a budget, and we have investigatory powers. If this stuff remains unsolved, I don't like using that third option, but we might have to use it. Because this stuff should not happen. To Mr. Ullman's point of being transparent in the
Yeah.
budget with taxpayers' money, and we don't know where it's going, that reflects badly on myself and us as a council. We have to get controls. That's why there's control numbers. And again, we've brought this budget down from over 150 pages when I started, and what are we down to now? We're down to 78, more than half, okay? Which is great, because we reclass things, we get rid of lines, which is nice, that are unfunded, but sometimes it does get mixed up where things are. And we have to make sure that we're doing what's right for the taxpayer and paying people their appropriate amounts and doing the right thing. So, again, I don't want to go down that Third Avenue, but if we're having difficulty finding it out, I have no problem putting money in a budget for forensic accounting on some of this stuff and using that authority that we have.
Mr. Bruno?
Yeah, I mean, I have to tell you, it's very difficult. In my mind, I don't really have any intention of passing this budget at this point, because there are a dozen plus accounts that the actual amounts were incorrect when we're comparing it to budget. We had the one huge one for $125,000 for leaf, for curbside, and it said $38,000, and then we had the run back. There's invoices that are missing that we think are coming in, but I don't know. And then at one point, even the payroll services, $15,000 a year, all of a sudden it dropped down by $5,000, we don't know why.
No, but that's up to date now.
I understand,
Gotta be
but,
thinking.
when we're trying to do this, we can't do it properly. So, I mean, I'm at the mindset, I know in my world, I could never walk into any board of directors meeting with something like this, never happened. So, I don't feel comfortable, I feel comfortable going through this, but, again, we have to go through this actuals, we have to look at everything that's paid, we have to match it off, and it doesn't make sense. And there was just too many accounts this year. I think this was probably the worst that I've seen in my 4 years.
Mr. Bruno, in years past, we were pretty efficient doing a budget, for whatever reason. It didn't take this long. And I don't know, and the question is, why is this one? And again, not anything against Mr. Tovo, because he's new, and Judy, she's only been here a few months. Something happened somewhere along the line, and we have to find out why it happened and prevent it from occurring again. Because a budget should not take this long to do. It should not take this long to do.
But if you don't have the right information and the accurate information, it's going to take this.
Oh, I agree with you.
That's what happens.
I agree.
And I think, listen.
I agree with you 100%.
Judy's new. I think the first session we had with our former administrator, the second session, we had forms and schedules, and, because I think there was a synergy as to what we were looking for, and there was a lot of information provided. This year, I know it was new for you, Bob, you didn't know, but it's not even so much that, it's the accuracy of what we were given is not good. And that's the problem.
Well, because the invoices weren't either
So,
processed yet
we're
or
guessing,
whatever.
we think there's more, we think there's not,
You're right.
it's a tough one.
With this last run, this incorporates everything year to date. So every bill that's been paid for 18 is on this, that's why this is March
So
26th.
so if
What
I
had
know
to
that
do is-
$125,000 line item, I'm gonna see 98,000?
Well, Bob, before we move, let's hold
Yeah,
that
okay.
thought. Mr. Cumming, you have anything to say to this?
I've heard a very complete statement by Mr. Ullman, Mr. Bruno, not picking on this person, this specific person, but finding the concerns and the questions regarding the salary action that happened, the questions on Town Day, which is still a mystery to me. We're not supposed to have to be the auditors. Maybe
Correct.
somebody else said that.
Correct.
We're not supposed to have to do that. We're to make a decision on the proper direction of the general budget
That's correct.
and then approve it. And I feel very unsure with the information that has been provided by the former administration through the current. It's not the fault of the new administrator, not the fault of the new CFO, but I hope next year we'll have a much straighter path, more accurate path, and an easier job, that we won't need Mr. Ullman's and Mr. Bruno's deep experience in delving into every line item.
We won't be here.
So, gentlemen,
I hope it gets better.
what do you want to do with these two line items, gentlemen? Are we okay leaving them the way they are?
So what's going to happen with the salary line for this person?
Well, that's what I'm asking. What do you want to do with it? You want to leave it status quo, or do you want to go
I gave
with
my
your
opinion
recommendation?
the last-
well, your recommendation was to reduce it.
You can-
Mr. Tovo,
It was
Mr. Bruno,
to agree
reduce
to
it.
what we agreed to.
Correct.
So whatever it was.
So Mr. Bruno's made a recommendation that we reduce 901-20-130-160 to $5,000
Hold on.
on page 10.
10, right?
Yes,
Is that what was discussed last year?
Yes,
if I
that was-
recall?
that was-
I will second that,
It was agreed upon.
that's what was,
It was agreed upon last year.
so I'm good with 5,000, reducing it 5,000.
Mr. Ullman,
Yes.
you're okay with it? Mr. Cumming?
It's got to be.
Judy, on page 10, 901-20-130-160, can you reduce that to $5,000, please? Sorry.
Sorry we have to do this, but it's got to be.
Someone has to have the conversation tomorrow. Who has that conversation?
Well, the payroll has to be adjusted.
Well, someone has to have the conversation tomorrow.
I know,
That you?
already have.
You did?
Okay, Mr. Bruno,
Thank you,
you wanted to
Mr.
go to the
Tupper.
125?
Yeah, I
Okay.
just want, well, Judy said it was updated. So what page was that 125 on?
No, it's not updated.
That's the one thing we do have to investigate.
That's gotta be transferred.
That's the grant we have to investigate, because I forgot about that one. But everything else, like all the leaves, all those charges are all in there. The grant we do have to, because I don't know what happened there. That's what.
What, so, okay, let me go to payroll services. Where's that?
Payroll services,
That was bottom of page 11,
Bottom of page 11, Mr. Mayor?
payroll service.
Yep. 15,594.50 to date, Mr. Bruno.
So where are we?
Bottom
Okay.
of page 11,
All right,
901.
So we found, so we got we were charged the extra 5,000.
Yes, but, and I actually asked Dina to find out, she said the contract's gonna be the same, it could have been more, but she's doing more on her end, they were looking for more than 15.
Well, that's fine, but it is a $15,000
Yes.
here versus the 9,000, 10,000,
Well,
or
because all
whatever it
those
was.
bills came in late, I don't know why they were
Understand.
late. They were very late.
So the leaf for 125, you have to investigate?
Well, that's
Yeah,
the one
because-
with
Yeah,
the,
because that,
no, the leaves you did, you said, the
no, ones
recycling
we
is
did
not done.
the recycling,
Where's leaves?
because the recycling was charged to a grant, and we don't really have that much grant money in that line item. The leaves are all up to date, because,
Grant money's really down to nothing now, after we
It
wrote
is.
everything off.
and we're not getting a lot in recycling anyway anymore. I think the most is maybe 20,000.
But that's the grant, the 20,000.
You know, in the past, we talked about grant writers, because we missed out on a lot of stuff, and I don't remember seeing that.
Yeah, we put money in.
Did we put money in there for a grant writer?
We weren't here, that's what, you
Oh.
missed it last night. We put
Okay.
15 grand in case we hire somebody to write grants for the new firehouse and the new fire equipment and
I'm
whatever
not gonna show
other
up anymore. You
projects.
guys get everything done, why do I have to be here?
So, from a procedural
Thank you.
standpoint, can we all agree?
What line was that, Mike, so I know?
It's on the
Which-
first page,
What, grant writers, Mike?
100, 170.
Oh, grant consultant, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Can we agree that revenues go into revenues and not offset the expenses, so we know what the true appropriation should be?
Well, revenues should go into revenues, offsets that have to be done as an offset is the reimbursement for the health, like the employee
That's
share
okay.
that has to.
We're talking, town day, people who donate money, give money, should all go to revenues, right?
What I would like to do is when you have a donation, I want to set up a trust in the trust reserve to track all the donations, and then take all the expenses out of it also, this way you can see it all coming in as a donation, then coming out, and whatever we spend, that's what I would do.
So you want to set up a separate account,
As
Judy?
a trust for
As
donations
long
for
as the
town
trust
day.
doesn't grow to like the unemployment.
Oh, no, I would actually take all the donations in, like I think Susan gave us a list. I would take all of those in and then charge expenditures to that, and you would actually see, is it costing us more for town day? Sometimes donations cover
Okay,
town.
so from a taxpayer standpoint, if you don't treat it as a revenue, then it's not a reduction to the capital appropriations in the current fund appropriations, right?
No, but it shouldn't be if you want to treat it as a trust, because you want to actually try to get donations to cover town day if you could. That's what most towns
Well, I
have it
think,
set up
I don't
that
know
way.
if that's I don't think the goal is to completely offset it. I think it's, if I'm not mistaken, a lot of those are for the banners that they buy, or,
Correct.
so.
Right. Well, you could have some in current, but you could also have, because sometimes what happens is, say 1 year, you get 10,000 in donations, stays in the trust, it grows. You only spend 5,000. Next year, you only get 1,000. You still have money in your trust reserve for town.
Got $80,000 worth of it.
Well, right, so.
That's why we zeroed it out this year, Bob, because it's ridiculous. We had
zeroed it out,
80,000.
And we also decreased, I think, celebration, right?
Yes, because there's money in there for town, that account.
There's still a
What
lot
we're
of
gonna do
money
though, we
in
have to
the
have a couple of different accounts.
Right.
Like, because we want the calendar that to be separate from town day or other celebrations,
Right.
otherwise.
I think that's what Mr.
we're not
Bruno's been
gonna track
asking
it.
for years, is that would be the mechanism to finally get Mr. Bruno what he wants, is what Judy's saying, to show, and Mr. Ullman also, to show, and all of us actually, to show, hey, we got 5,000 donations, it cost us 3,800 to print it, we have 1,200 left over.
Exactly.
We spent it on banners or whatever we did, or mailings, whatever it was, and it offset it. Because right now, it's all over
It's
the
all over,
place.
and we don't have a lot of sub-accounts set up. And that's
Now,
what we don't
do we have a separate trust for every escrow, for every homeowner?
No, we have to do that.
We do not right
No,
now.
that was never done, we have to do that.
What is that exactly?
Talk up a little bit, please.
I'm sorry, what happens is whenever someone puts down any type of escrow for a project,
Right.
you have to open up an individual account. for
It
that
should be an
person.
interest-bearing account, doesn't it state?
Interest-bearing account,
Yeah,
they have
it's
to
good.
file a W-9,
Mhm.
and that has not been done here.
And is that required by the state?
Yes,
And how long has that been required by the state?
oh, forever,
Forever.
In 25 years, that's how I've always operated.
yes,
Okay.
forever.
So that's something that's not on our punch list?
Oh, no,
for-
it is on the punch list.
No, I shouldn't say
Oh, I'm
punch
sorry.
list. The
Audit.
best practices list. So that would be a
Well, that's
issue.
not a question
It's
on
not on
best
there.
practices right now. It could be down the road, but it's not a question on best practices right now.
But isn't that something the auditor should have caught?
Well, I tell
Or
you
it's hidden
truthfully,
in other things and it gets,
I have talked to some CFOs, and what they do is, I know you're familiar with the escrow module, so some of them just put it all in one trust account and monitor on the escrow module, okay? You're really supposed to have a separate account and monitor on the escrow module.
so you should do both,
You
you're
should do
saying?
both. Whether or not the auditor makes a comment about it, that I can't say,
All
but
right.
it should be individual.
So when do you think we'd be at the point where everything is into its home?
Well, the accounts need a lot of analyzing. Some of them are very, very old. I think we discussed.
Going forward, we are
Right,
doing it
going
now,
forward-
right,
going
Judy?
forward,
So it's,
definitely
again,
we're
it's
doing
the
it going
back
forward.
stuff.
So from January,
Yeah.
since you've, let's call it January 1, everything is being done correctly, but it's the former stuff that you're having
Yes,
to.
exactly.
And as you find the former stuff, you're dumping it into new trust accounts,
Well,
or?
right now, I think that I'm not supposed to say names, I don't think. right?
No.
I think there's another person doing escrow, but I think we need to figure out who's gonna be really taking that over. I think that probably shouldn't be me. I should be involved with it at least. I don't know if that's what the plan would be, but I think I have to set procedures for that as to what needs to be done, because that's never been, don't really have procedures here as far as opening up new accounts. I don't even know if Orange County actually has an account system like that for escrow accounting.
Oh.
Some banks don't have it. I mean, Bank of America got out of it, I think TD has it, Valley may have it.
You have to do a subledger then.
A lot, right, exactly, a lot of the banks don't have it.
Okay.
Does
But it
Evans
should
have
be
a
individual.
subledger, or you have to do?
Yes,
all
no,
four?
Evans does have a subledger.
So-
There is a module, do we have that module yet, or
We
we
have
need?
that module
We do
already.
have it
Yeah,
now,
it's just
okay.
not being used the way fully.
When someone does a
should be.
project to their house, they put an addition on, they build the house, and
Correct.
they have this money in an escrow account. How long does it sit there if the homeowner does not request it back for whatever?
Forever.
reason? So it just sits there in
Wasn't that how we
perpetuity?
cleaned up
Right.
the
Yeah.
Azalina invoices?
Correct, yes, that's how we cleaned up a lot of the Azalea, because there was
But you know,
money.
it's sitting there, and then
But
what
that,
happens
is money ever used from an account that was not, that's what I'm trying to say.
Is it misappropriated?
Yes, I guess
Well, if you have
misappropriation
an
money.
individual account, then you know it's not misappropriated.
Understood.
You know, you have to, and we do have.
And misappropriated is a strong word,
Right,
but,
right.
you know, there's a pool of money.
Right.
Right.
So if you put 1,000 in and somehow you say, I am owed 1,200 because I didn't move forward with the
Right.
project, is there, if it's not individually subledgered, there's a potential,
Right.
if
Issue.
paperwork is not,
Right.
that you could pay him 1,200.
Right.
I mean, in theory.
Right now, we do have a subledger. The only thing is we don't have individual accounts. So basically, it would be like, okay, you have all the money sitting in here on trust, okay, in the bank,
Right.
right? And then you have all the individual accounts listed on our subledgers, but there's no individual bank account.
So you go into that
Those-
general
that's
account
all.
and pull out, Mr. Cumming did some work in his house, he has 1,200 there. Okay, we know it's in the bank under the huge account, and we're gonna pull his 12 out.
Exactly, right.
John Smith, he had 100.
Right.
You can pull it out. So that's all documented,
Right.
who's contributed to the major account, if you need to pull it out, correct?
How many do you have from this thing?
Oh, there's a bunch, there's a bunch.
Over
I mean,
100?
1,000.
Oh, probably over, I mean, some of them are old, don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
we have to do a lot of research, people may.
I mean, pretty much everybody that goes to the building department that pulls out, puts an addition on their house, has got soil moving escrow,
There's a
tree,
lot.
yeah, there's a
And if
lot of
any
escrows, so,
Any really big projects, with a lot of money, you really have to give that interest to the developer.
yeah.
You know, the law is anything over $100 has to be distributed.
Is the
Has to be
person who's-
distributed interest bearing?
Yes, and the developer gets two-thirds, I think developer meaning the person putting the money
The
down.
homeowner or-
whoever.
okay.
They get two-thirds and the town keeps one-third.
Is the person doing the escrow financially adept, qualified?
Oh, I think so, yes, I think so.
Still, it'll always be a two-person process. There's somebody from planning and zoning and somebody from finance.
Okay. All right, gentlemen. Judy, you ran some new numbers with the different surplus amounts?
Yes, well, actually.
I think they were handed out, right, or they weren't handed out yet?
What I did was
Oh,
I
Mr.
ran.
Tova's gonna hand them out.
I
You
put
had-
in
You have
the,
yours.
No, I think
You
you,
know what we go?
I didn't get one.
oh, yeah, no.
I just want to.
I think you
have
gave
one, Mr.
Bob.
Cumming?
I'm not sure
I
that
think you
you
just
just.
grabbed it.
Because this new budget contained all of the changes that we made, and also I incorporated those small capital items into current. So
Okay.
we have a new budget number, and I
Did
believe,
you find the home for that, or just?
Oh, no, I found, I actually had to add a couple of lines, but I did find homes for most of them. Okay, all right.
So you took all the stuff out of capital last night and put it into the new
Yes.
run?
Yes.
So this run has the numbers somewhere
Yes.
filled in for
Yes,
hopefully,
and the capital improvement amount that's in there is enough to cover,
okay.
okay?
Capital improvement.
And-
So you have two separate printouts here?
You do. How much is your capital improvement?
I think the only difference is the surplus that we're taking, Judy.
Right.
Yeah.
How much is your capital improvement?
The capital improvement, I think is 550, I believe you put in there?
550,000?
Yeah,
Where's that?
that should be, oh, that's not in here, that's in this.
That's at the end? 550 you put in?
Yes.
And we have, what, 250?
That we have in there now? Oh, I don't know what we have in there now, but I always try to put in what we're trying to cover for the capital program for that year.
What, the 20%?
5% down
Another
payment?
5%? I mean?
Right.
Okay, so that's what you're doing?
Yes.
And I think there's, yeah, so this is 250, right? This is, you're doing the capital fund or the capital improvement?
Capital improvement. You go to the capital balance sheet. to see.
So page 1 is a 1.2 surplus anticipated,
Yes.
and page 2 is 1.9
You have the
surplus
capital-
anticipated?
General capital fund, capital improvement.
So you have 564?
That's not the capital improvement, that's just a debit and credit like you do in your trial balance.
Which one are you looking for?
I'm looking for the cash, I'm looking for the balance sheet for capital.
I have to get the AFS, I don't know. So if we put 550 in, which is somewhere at the end, I assume.
Should be, I
It's at the
thought it's
end.
at the very end.
Yeah,
I think it's,
We got 101,000 in capital improvement fund,
so now you're putting 50?
500.
So we have 600.
Yep, it's 600.
Should we have 700? Should we have 750? Where's that from?
Well,
It's on page 70.
you could always increase the capital, I mean, I just basically plug in
75.
if we're gonna do the 10 million or so.
Page 75, 2 lines from the bottom.
I mean, if you want to
yep,
increase that,
capital
you can.
improvement fund, 550,000.
So what do we have for capital, in case we need capital?
Well, our
You know,
capital plan we're looking at, we
You
just
know, we
figured
have,
was,
no, we need capital to do some capital stuff, you know, like El Pronto. What page, Mike, did you say?
75,
2 lines from the bottom.
90144, 902, 200.
Okay.
well, with the new capital plan, we were coming up with, what, 10, I think it
Yeah,
was
so, but that's
10.3?
the 5%, so I get
Right.
that. But what about in case we wanted, you know, get a new street light or something? Or,
Well,
know,
you could, well,
get
you
a new
could,
computer.
well, you could do that, I mean, if you wanted to increase the capital improvement fund and put some money in that, or you could always raise money in the current fund and put it in the reserve. Like, you know, you have like reserve for ambulance, you could, if you wanted to do
Yeah,
something
so,
like that, that's,
okay.
you know.
So that's one question that we should discuss. The other question I have is, I know when I spoke to Lou, we can put $50,000 in the reserve on the current fund and call it miscellaneous, for argument's sake. He said 50 is usually, you don't want to go more than that, but we can put 50,000 in some account, leave it there for whatever we need it for in case we go over here and there.
So if we like
That
extra
capital,
trees,
that's current fund.
like extra
Yeah.
trees or
Yeah.
something like we had the
So we
storms.
can put 50,000 somewhere.
That's a good
I
idea,
don't know
Bob.
the accounting of it, but he said 50 is, you know, I had asked for 100, he said 50.
Well, you could always do a buffer, but remember, after the 2 years, that's gonna
buffer.
go, well, you know, a buffer, right? But after 2 years, you know it's gonna go into your surplus, so if you don't use that.
Well, we can try it, and if we, you know, I mean, we're always, you know.
We're always looking for money for trees
or
or whatever it is,
You
yeah.
know.
Well,
You
I'm
could
just
you
saying,
could
as an,
you
I'm
could
throwing it out as an
yeah.
option, that's
You could
all.
just, you could always put a reserve in like that, and, but I would actually, I would look at that and see, like, if you come to the end of the year, if you want to transfer some money out, and get some money in different line items, that's what I would do. This way it's
Right,
not
I
stuck
agree.
there, you
Right,
know?
so it sits there, we can control what comes out of one account, where it goes.
Yeah, so instead
Instead
of
Mickey
like
Mouse stuff.
stealing from stuff from, just take it out of that fund.
Right.
Not stealing, but moving.
Borrowing.
Yes, let's not use those terms.
What
This
is
is, this is just that they do, it's a statement, so you're just trying to total everything out, see it's your balance, and it's saying what you added to it.
Right, but don't we have a capital fund and a capital improvement fund, aren't there two?
Capital improvement fund is your capital that you're putting in each year for your down payment, and that grows. This is telling you what your balance was on your surplus. So you had this, you added that from your premiums.
Oh, in capital?
Okay, and this is what you used, because they used some money last year,
Right.
they appropriated to budget
Yeah,
revenue,
yeah.
and that's what's left over.
So we have 254 in this account.
As your
And then you-
surplus,
Yeah.
surplus,
right,
that's not the same
understand.
as capital improvement.
Okay,
right?
but there's 254 in surplus.
Surplus,
I
right.
went through this 3 years ago.
Yes,
And then we're gonna put 550 in with the additional 100.
for capital improvement.
Right, okay.
That's
So
on the side.
Okay, so what do we
Okay.
use this, so, okay, but what do we
Right.
use this for?
Well, then you can use that to put into the current budget if you wanted to move some money over.
No, well,
Yeah.
I know.
That's it. Or you could use that to, if you wanted to buy something, you could take like.
Okay, so that's
you could take down
my
payment out
question.
of capital
So there's
surplus also.
254 in here if we wanted to buy something, and then the 5% on the 10 million plus the 100,000 will give us 6 and change in the capital fund.
Yes,
So can we use that 250, if the 400 doesn't exist that we started this budget meeting at,
For the roads.
for the roads?
you could use that.
Can we take that 254 and add it to
I wouldn't want to
550?
make it zero, though. I
Yeah, you
wouldn't
can.
want
The
to-
problem is
I
we
mean, you
did,
can,
we
but-
zeroed it out almost 2 years ago, and then we built it up a little bit, so that was us. We had like,
So even if we take 200 and bring road up to
Back up.
750,
I'll
and
leave
then-
100 in there. I would leave, we built
Seems
it back
reasonable.
up.
Yeah, it works the same as almost.
you have
your current
150.
surplus.
so we had the 150 to the 550, we're at 700 for roads, you know, and if we get the 400, and if the 400 does exist, we're at 1.1 million, that's a lot of roads for this year, which is what we, you know, a good chunk of roads this year.
And this surplus, as you can see, it grows if you get a premium with the Sunny Bands.
Yeah.
You get, and that goes in there. So
Yeah.
that's a nice thing.
Okay.
So Judy, you ran two separate scenarios here, one for 1.2 million in surplus anticipated, and one for 1.9 million? Is that what you
Yes.
did?
And this, that includes like all the stuff that I moved over from the current, from the capital to the current to fund all those little projects. And if I use the 1.2 million, I'm at 289 increase. If I use the 1.9, I'm at $86 increase.
Total yearly.
And what was our total appropriations? What's the equivalent number, 219, the
This is the total
13? No, but the
appropriation.
13,391 was 361?
Yes.
What's the equivalent as of 17, 18?
Oh, what your 18 was?
Wasn't it somewhere in that area?
Yeah, it was somewhere. I think I might
It's-
have printed that out.
No, 12, right now it's 13,391?
13,371.
390, no, 13,390.
Oh, at the end, I'm sorry, Mike, yeah, 13,391,
That's the
715.
I think I
So what's
printed
the
2006.
equivalent of that for
In 17?
18?
18, I
In
think.
18?
Yeah, this is 19, what did we do in 18?
13,371.
Okay, so it's similar.
Yeah,
$20,000
very
difference.
similar,
20,000 different in budget.
very, very similar.
But we added all that, all those,
We added
we
all
took
that
all the
capital
capital
together.
stuff, which was 150,000, so,
And put that in.
yeah.
Because we had a lot of decreases on, the BCUA went down.
Yeah, BCUA went down, a lot of things went down.
A lot of things went down.
So our appropriations are very similar to last year in terms of dollar amounts, even with all the mixing and matching.
And
Yeah.
and also, don't forget also, we have the last payment of the bond, which also decreased the interest.
Yeah.
So that was a big thing.
When did that pay out?
I'm sorry?
When did that happen? How long ago was that?
Well, we have the last payment this year,
In
but
September.
because
Oh,
it was
this
halved.
is coming up in September.
Right.
Gotcha.
We saved a lot on interest, we only had one payment left, so the interest went all the way down.
And this still does not factor what the debt service is going forward.
No, no.
And
No, this is just a down payment to the debt service.
Right, but as we were discussing, if we go to
No, the
permanent,
debt service for the 10
Right.
million.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying, but it's got the 5% down payment
Yeah,
in
but
there.
then you gotta do the interest.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying, but for this year, this budget does include the down payment for the 10 million, right, Judy?
yes, yes. But if we did do permanent financing, if we timed it right, you wouldn't have a payment this year.
Right.
This payment is semi-annual, it's always the interest, so you would miss a payment this year, so.
And then next year, that 480 comes back, or that 480 is available.
Right,
to-
because the 440 will be gone.
The 440,
this year,
excuse me,
right.
the 440, just, so $500,000 roughly
Right.
is available to go toward the new debt service on top of whatever
Right,
the rest
exactly.
is.
So basically.
So I spoke to Mr. May today. He's going to meet on Thursday He's coming, he's booked the next 2 weeks, right, Judy?
He
You
is,
told-
and so is, it's
So Beinfeld and-
Beinfeld's free, but he's booked, so we can only get Thursday at 2 o'clock, I think.
2 o'clock. He's going to put, so he asked what what different scenarios do you want him to run? And the first scenario I said is, we want a recommendation from you and Mr. Beinfeld on, do we keep the bands for a little longer? Do we pay some of them off and keep the bands? Do we pay off the bands totally with a separate bond ordinance, just for the bands, Mike? Because I know I agree with you. We shouldn't bond something that should have been paid for 10 years ago for another 20 years. It just doesn't make sense. So he was going to look at those 3 scenarios, leaving the bands the way they are, but using, continuing to pay them, with the, I guess, like Bob Bruno had said, there's a debt schedule that Ashley prepared. So continuing with that and hoping that the interest rates stay the way they are. Second scenario is finance, turning some of the bands into long-term, to short 5-10 year bonds,
Bonds, exactly.
and paying them off that way. The third is to pay off all $6 million right now into a 5-10 year bond and see what that cost was. The second thing he was going to do is come up with different scenarios of, 20 years is the max on bonds. He doesn't, there are ways to do it longer, but neither one recommended us go any longer than 20 years. No. So.
That's the problem we got into here to begin with.
Correct. So they would never go for 25, 30 years, so that's off the table, Mike, just so we're on the same page, everybody. So he's going to give us numbers of what the 10 million would look like with all the existing debt schedules and the bands, because he says there is a correlation, because whatever we do with the bands, it's going to get less and less every year. Even if we go to like a 10-year payout, leave the bands as they are, there's going to be money, like it's 440 this year, it's 390 next year, so
Right, exactly.
it gives you another 70,000 to put toward the 20-year
Right,
bonds.
'cause
So they're going to work out those different scenarios, and he's going to send it to the council for our approval. He's going to try to get here. If he gets an opening, he's going to try to meet with us, so we may have to have, a meeting with him, if we want to meet with, if everybody has more questions after we get this information, which I'm sure we will, but the problem we have is, Sue, did you get any, where with getting the budget extended?
I put a call into Tina Zapichi? Thank you. And I did not hear back from her yet, so I will follow up tomorrow morning with a phone
So
call.
Mike, I don't know, Bob, Steve, Mike, Mr. Cummings, I don't know if I missed anything of the scenarios I should have talked to Lumai about, but I think I got them all, but.
The only thing I would say, and I'm sure, hopefully they.
And they're gonna bring, and they said if we come up with any more, of course, they're gonna go through with them. But he said, what are you guys trying to accomplish? That was the major part of the phone call. Lou, yes. The major part of the conference was, what are you guys trying to accomplish? And I know it's paying down the bands and looking for $10 million of permanent bonding for 20 years.
So the only thing I would say to that is clearly, if the fire department moves forward and if the DMF moves forward, those would be 20-year. My only concern is, muddying some of the other things that are not 20-year. So that's one. And, we're never going to find perfection, and to
Correct.
do multiple issuances becomes expensive.
And the lower they are, it makes it that, you're playing with the rate. When you go out for 10 is different than when you go out for 5, they were saying, because you're gonna get different interest rates on that. So if we go out for, let's just say, if you said, hey, 5 years for the Class 7 truck, you're not gonna get 2s and 3s, you may get the 7.5s and the 8s.
Right.
So then, what are we doing? It doesn't make sense, but.
The only other thing I would say is that clearly, and again, assuming it's the consensus of the council, is that they're going to want the ladder truck sooner rather than later. And if we are in a rate environment, and we feel that the taxpayers can absorb it,
Add the $1.5 million to it?
because,
Yeah,
because,
I understand what you're saying.
to do 10 million,
And then do $1.5 million next year is gonna be, it's gonna be more costly than just doing it now.
yes, I mean, so if the 1.5
Judy, can you talk to Mr. Mai about that, then adding the 1.5 to it, like Mr. Allman's asking?
Do you mind if I call Lou tomorrow?
Absolutely, you can call.
Because I want to just explain something too, for all of our purposes. When Ashley did this schedule, she did I'm sorry, Mike, were you done?
No, yes, I'm done. I got
She did a $10 million principal bonding for, I think, 11 years at a rate of 3.25. And what her goal was to run out how much we pay in principal and interest, how much the bands would play out, and we would have, she did it with, we had an even payment of about $1.3 million every year. Didn't
Okay.
change. I don't know if Lou has this, but I'll talk to him about it.
So to your
So
point,
her point was, here's your debt service, here's your bands, here's your interest, here's your...
and that's only over 11 years, and it was $1.3 million a year.
Yeah. And that's paying off some of the bands, adding more bands. I'd have to go try and understand a little bit of it, but that's what she did, at
And you have those
3.25.
schedules, right?
Huh?
You have those schedules, you said.
Yeah.
I'm gonna see if I have them. I don't know if you have them in the, you have them in like a,
Or PDF.
oh, PDF, okay.
You want them? You want me to send them?
Yeah,
I
send
don't have
them
it
to
in
me.
Excel, though.
Yeah, send them to me.
I think she only sent them in a PDF.
PDF.
They don't like us touching anything. Safe that way.
We can convert it back though. Mom, was you an IT person? Right? I thought you were an IT, I don't know.
So anyway, that was her goal, was to even it out.
Dangerous, maybe.
That's 1.3 million.
So Mr. Mai's goal was to look at, the 10 million at 20, and possibly doing the bands at a shorter term, 5 or 10, and seeing where that puts us. And, it's gotta be economical, it's a lot of money, we're getting hit with this. And we're trying to deal with it as best we can. But he said one of the options, keeping the bands going and making principal payments to them is an option. But like you said last night, we're rolling the dice on the interest rate. The feds have said that they're gonna stick low, but, things change, and that's the problem with that. And
Well, they mentioned.
we're gonna have to
fixed
make it,
financing.
what's that?
They mentioned, variable finance, in other words, like pay some of the band down and then maybe permanently bond. Like Ms. Thelman was saying, you don't want to bond like 100,000 for 20 years.
No,
It kills me.
That doesn't make any sense at all.
no, and that's what Mr. Mai was talking to you about today, was, some of these smaller things, hey, bite the bullet and
Get rid of
We
it.
could pay
get rid of
them
it
down.
and find the money so that's what
Well,
they're
if you
looking
have
at.
any sitting in
They're-
capital
Mr.
surplus,
Mai's
you can
coming
send it out.
Thursday, right, is Mr. Meinfeld coming Thursday also, or just
Yes.
Mr. Mai's? They're both coming
Both.
Thursday. I'm gonna try to attend, it's a busy day, but I'll try.
At
my
2?
best. At 2,
Two.
This Thursday.
this Thursday, yes.
Anybody can take a late
I'm
lunch?
sending it from my Gmail, because I had to send it to my Gmail so I could print it.
Okay.
Because I don't have it on the phone, so you're gonna get it from my Gmail.
All right.
Yes.
So I guess, we, once we have that information, we'll have to make a decision on, both of Judy's runs, the 1.2 versus the 1.9. We could discuss it tonight if you'd like, or do we want to wait for Mr. Beinfeld and Mr. Mai to give us the additional information? I mean, because that's going to be important on which one we go to, because that's going to add a lot to the,
Well, let's
2020
assume
budget.
you do 1.2 million, for argument's sake. Right now, we have 4.2 plus 1, we have 5.2 million. You're gonna use 1.2, so that leaves you with 4. You wanna keep how much in surplus, 2?
2.5 million, 2.5
Two?
million?
I
Yeah.
thought we said
Two?
1.5
We wanted to
last
go
night.
down.
1.5? Well, I'm just throwing it out there.
Well, 10% is the 1.5.
Yeah.
Quite honestly, I feel that that's very tight. I'd rather keep,
2?
2.5, I'd like to say.
I would say even 2.5. I mean, it's,
Okay, so let's go back. 5.2 less 1.2 is 4. So if you keep 2, you have 2. If you keep 2.5, you have 1.5 in cash.
okay.
So it's 2 and 1.5 in cash. Plus, if we can dig through these unfunded stuff in the reserves, I know there's money in the reserves, it's probably a couple $100,000.
And there's the school money.
That's in there. It's the 4.2 plus the 1 is 5.2.
Okay. And
I mean, I know we have this fascination with the school money. I think Westwood has spent it the same day they got it, or whatever it was. we're holding on to this like
No,
it's
well,
like,
that's what I'm saying.
yeah, it's time to.
We're not holding it anymore.
Yeah, I think it's time to, spend it, we gotta get, it can't, it's DMF's $1.3 million, that's $1 million of it, that's a huge,
Yeah.
Different if it were earning
Yeah.
10% interest, but
Correct, it's
it's
not.
earning nothing.
We should
Well,
not
the
be,
question is though, what do you think taxpayers can live with as far as an increase in the tax rate?
Well, I haven't had an increase in 4 years, so, and I'm a taxpayer.
But I'm saying like the first scenario is,
So I'm
first
gonna get hit.
scenario is 289, the second is 86, so.
Yeah, but they had
$200
nothing for 4 years, so.
I'm just saying, I don't know your feel, I mean, that's,
I think we have to use, well, my feeling is the 1.2 is fine, and the rest of the surplus has to be used to improve the town.
and pay down the bands or
Yeah, I
improve
mean,
the town,
we've got to
yeah.
get rid of some of this stuff, so it's a 289 a year?
289 increase.
A year.
A year, yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, we haven't had anything for 4 years, so now it's
We were close to
technically
200
$50,000, $50 a year.
Yeah, we've been at over 200 in decreases the last
Past
3
couple
years,
of years,
Mr.
yeah.
Bruno.
We're bringing it where it was.
Yeah, so,
almost.
I mean, but the thing is.
We're talking,
use this
we're
cash.
talking serious capital things we've
Yeah.
done as a council. We've bought a lot of things, we've paid a lot of debt.
We're not kicking the can down the road any further.
Yeah, I mean, we've done a lot, and something to be
Let's see
proud
what-
of.
See what Lou says.
Yeah. So Thursday, 2 o'clock, if any of you gentlemen can make it.
Well, it
If
can only be
not-
a max of 2 of you.
Oh, yes. So who can make it? Bob, are you available? Mike, are
Otherwise,
you
it's a
available?
meeting.
I'm not here.
Council meeting.
I'll speak to Lou, but I'm not here.
All right.
Just-
I'm gonna try to make it.
Can you send whatever he
Mr. Cummings,
has?
can you make,
I
no,
can
you're,
try to
I
make
thought you were going Maple.
Well, it depends on whether there's a meeting or not.
Well, we can only have 2 there, so if anybody could definitely make it, I'll give up my spot. I don't have an issue, because I have prior commitments to
I
St.
know I
Joe's
have
Regional.
meetings on Tuesday, but on.
Thursday, this is.
Thursday. I have meetings Thursday. If I could, I'll know first thing in the morning, I will send an email to you.
Okay, so if you can't make it, if you can make it, Mike, my wife's probably yelling right now at the TV.
She would thank you for making it, Mike.
Can you just get me all the documents?
Forget to
Whatever
watch
when
what
he
they
comes
want
with
while
them?
I'm not here.
Well,
Whatever-
Judy's gonna get them and give them to Sue, and she'll get them to all of
So
us.
whatever he has, and then I could get my questions together. I
Yes.
can even conference in if I have to.
Yeah,
I can't make it, Mike.
you cannot make
I
it.
cannot.
Okay. So, Mr. Cumming, if you're available,
Depends whether you want to.
no, well, if Mr.,
No matter.
Well, you-
No,
I'll know first thing in the morning.
It will be well represented.
We'll work it out.
So I'm not worried, the 2 that come.
To the best advantage, I think that would be a good meeting.
thank you. All right, gentlemen, anything else?
Oh, I think it's going to be excellent.
Yeah, I think it's
Mail
about,
to Sue.
Huh?
Can you package and mail to
I think
Sue?
it's going to be
Yeah,
excellent.
you might have to send a.
No, I did.
They're both very smart
Is
guys.
that what you
FedEx.
talked about? I
The
don't know, I
FedEx.
saw that.
Get us a better rate?
So I want to get hold on it too.
he seemed to have been very happy to talk to you today, Judy, and get
No, he
what.
was
He
very
was
nice.
very
So-
happy. He was-
So was Mr.
Beinfeld,
Beinfeld. He
yeah,
was
and-
very, very happy.
And
That session we did,
We had a
that
very
was a
good
great session we did
conversation,
last
yes.
year with them.
That's what he said. He said we had a very good conversation and.
And I think he understands we don't want to kick the ball down the road anymore and get this
Very
resolved.
Yes.
I mean,
And I think we should see him from time to time.
Well, so a general feel, we're thinking we're going to go with the 300 number or the 90 number?
well, it's going to be 300 plus something.
Yeah, you're not done yet. So the
Okay,
answer
well-
to your question is to use the 1.2 in surplus and then let the chips fall where they may. That's
Okay.
my opinion.
you're saying stick with the 1.2 right now,
I
Bob?
think we have to. We have to use this money for the town. I mean, again,
Oh, I-
for 4 years, we've.
We've
you know,
gone down
we're
to over
catching up
200, yeah.
What happened, so it's not, we've done what we could, and now it's got to use this money.
Okay, Mr. Cassia?
We've done, I think, a very good job over the last couple of years keeping it negative, not a negative attitude, negative number, or a flat number, okay? And we do have a lot of capital projects, and this number for what those capital projects would be reflects a good value. And we don't want to get into the same, we don't want to leave a future council in the same bind that this council and prior councils have been left.
Absolutely.
So that's
Mr.
my
Almond?
opinion. I hate it going up, but
So you're for 1.2 right now? Mr. Alman? 1.2?
That's
Mr.
good for
Cumming?
me.
1.2 is reasonable, and I think it's good we're not leaving a legacy of.
Of
debt
bills.
And bad infrastructure for the next
Council.
round.
All All right, two quick things. Monday night, we will have Mr. Conley here for the firehouse presentation.
Correct.
Tomorrow, you will receive the renderings of the building and the layout of the building. Correct, Mr. Mayor? We should have it tomorrow morning? Or sometime tomorrow?
Sometime tomorrow, yeah.
Sometime tomorrow, council will receive the rendering and the
Cost estimate.
cost estimate and the layout of the building. Also, Monday night, we will go into close to have a quick presentation by Mr. Tovo on the police, right?
Correct.
On the contract negotiations for the police.
And Mr. Pollard.
And Mr. Pollard had asked for close for Viviana.
Viviana.
So just to keep everybody.
Sounds like a busy night.
It's going to be a busy night Monday, and
President?
Sue has a question.
My just question is, I haven't sent down an email about your conference agenda items until we get tonight to see, do you want me to do that, or you want to just address what we have tonight?
I think we
I think
suspend them
just-
again.
I think we just go with what we
that
have.
we have tonight.
That's what I thought.
Yes,
too.
thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Anything else, gentlemen?
I just want to let you know that I did send, La Trinity the preliminary budget stuff. They have most of that stuff, so they're.
Oh, so they're already starting to input it, okay.
For the friendly budget?
No, just, they have the budget, they did the budget document itself. actually.
The friendly budget?
No, no, the budget document itself, the condensed one. And now we have this one, that means the one that actually goes to the state.
The legal,
Yeah.
why legal?
You're
Right,
not the user-friendly, the actual budget document itself.
itself.
Do we have to do a friendly one this year?
Well, they're saying that we do, but they're hoping that once the budget is entered on the so-called FAST system, which has
Right.
not been working correctly, that it's gonna generate the user-friendly budget, but
Last year.
Remains to be seen.
right now, you can't even correct the AFS on it.
Right, so, Sue, you have to give us, you have to get us an extension?
That's what she called, that's what we talked about before.
I'm not sure, 'cause last year she gave you a hard time saying this was the only time, so I will.
I thought we got two last year.
Well, you've got an extension,
think
then you
he's
had to
right.
get a second extension, that's what I think set off. So let me see what I can do tomorrow. I will talk nice.
Okay.
Do you want me to try and set up a presentation of the fiber optic? Not for this one,
month.
coming up with a
Yes,
following meeting?
the following meeting or
So
subsequent
we
meeting?
can understand a little bit better? Okay.
And we were to talk to Ben about that.
Yeah, we'll
Right?
All right,
get
motion to
the
adjourn,
vendor.
gentlemen?
So moved.
Second.
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen.
And ladies.